Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Brian from USA.Patriot.Cards, and I'm back with another trade in 2023, my second trade of the year. This one is a vintage trade. Now, let me say, I am not a vintage guy. Doesn't mean I don't love them. Used to own a couple Manels, sold them, made a little bit of profit. Should have probably held on to them and made more of a profit. Isn't that the story? Doesn't mean I don't love the Mantles, the Aarons, the Robinsons, but I'm more of a type of dude that likes to collect the players that I watch every night. That's what I like to do. So you might be a vintage guy, you might not. There's lots of lanes in this hobby to pick from and get in and you drive on down the road. So that's what's great about this thing is you can make it whatever you want it to be for you. That being said, there are some vintage cards that I've targeted that I really, really would like to add. I have 3 now. I'll show you the first 2 that I have, and then we can move on, and I'll show you the trade. The vintage that I do want and have is a little more modern vintage. I think pre-84, 84 and under is considered vintage. It's considered vintage. That's what I heard, at least. So I like the newer, older stuff, if that makes sense. So let me show you sort of. Oh, before I get into that, look what came in. If you saw the last video, look at that bad boy. Now this was the first trade of 2023 for me. Oh, it's such a great card. Love that patch. Definitely one of the most beautiful patches that I have in my collection. 0.5 away from being a 9.5. I got to see if I can get those corners or edges bumped. It's kind of a, I don't know. It's hard. It's hard to get any. It's hard to get any ground from grading companies, but who knows? Who knows if it's possible? It looks like this bottom right corner is the one that prevented it from being a 9.5. Got a 9 on corners, and on the surf or on the edges, I really can't tell. I put my my little magnifying glass to it. I don't know. What would you guys do? Would you crack it? Would you take it in a slab to BGS next weekend at the Dallas Card Show? How would you handle this? Let me know what you think. But glad to get this in hand. I talked about this in the last video. If you didn't see that and you want to see what I traded for this, go back and watch it. I appreciate it. Let me show you the couple vintage cards that I already had before I made this trade. And this, if you collected in the 80s, this card was always seemingly out of reach, right? I was 5 in 1980, but I came to like collectible consciousness when I was about 10, 85. And by the time that I woke up to sports cards, Henderson was already an all-star, and like this card was always like rarely seen, but always an amazing card. So this was the very, I guess no, this was the second. This was the second card that I got. As far as older cards are concerned, this next card was the first card that I bought. Love this. I love the Royals. I'm a Royals guy. I'm from Missouri. I was born in Joplin. Went to University of Missouri. So love Bobby Witt Jr. I loved Bo Jackson. Who else? All the guys. I could go on and on. Not really. Steve Balboni. Gubazov, of course. Man, my Royals memory is not that strong, or they just haven't been that good and had that many players. Of course, Alex Gordon and that whole crew that won Eric Hosmer that won the World Series, but George Brett, 1975, PSA 6. Now, this is really centered. One of the main problems with this card, receiving a high grade, is the centering. So, yeah, in a 6, you can pick this card up just almost next to nothing. But it's a gorgeous card. My birth year, love that card. And this is the one I traded for. Before I get into that, let me show you what I gave for this. Now, the total in trade value on this thing was $1,375, $1,375. So you can keep that in mind as we go through this. These cards that I gave totaled up to actually totaled up to about $1,400. So a little more went his way, but yeah, tell me what you think about the deal. So here's a 1998 Topps Chrome Coast to Coast. It is a refractor Kobe insert. Let's see. I think that the comp on that was around 200. Donovan Mitchell, red, white, and blue. This is after his 71-point game, so he did have a little tick up in comps, which was nice. Silver Prism 9. Trey Young Shock 10. $100 comp on that. I can't remember what these comps were. I think total they were around 200 maybe. Trey Young Silver Rookie 9. I think this was like $75 comp on this, which is almost pre-pandemic. I mean, I remember buying these raw at the show in Dallas when it was a smaller show for $20 each, and you could get a Luka raw. I want to say for 100 maybe. Here's a Shea 9. He's kind of cooled off a little. I think he's hurt. That's always been the knock on Shea for me, and why I've stayed away from any huge Shea cards is that he's fragile. He's great. I mean, trust me, he's a throwback in that he doesn't shoot a ton of threes, yet he scores 30 points a night. So his game is amazing. I love the player. He's a little slight built for the NBA, so he's always been a little prone to injuries, and there's nothing, as the Zion collectors can attest to, that hurts a kid's value more than not being able to stay on the court or the field. Here's a couple Tatums, a PSA 9 red, white, and blue, and a PSA 9 Hyper. This was probably the biggest card I gave in the deal. I think this is comping at around 225, if I'm not mistaken, this Hyper. Yeah, these Hypers don't grade 10 very often. I think the 10 in this is doing maybe 1,500. Okay, so I was also able to continue to trade out some of my Garbage Pail sketch cards, which I've got a lot of sketch cards. If you're ever interested in the sketch card, I'll give you a good deal on it. And you know what? The sketch card market hasn't, it's stayed relatively flat, stable. It didn't go up a ton during the pandemic. Maybe the volume of sketches bought and sold was higher, but the sketch values have more or less remained the same. So I was able to give a couple of nice ones. A Cecilia Granada color sketch right here. And on the back, it was actually a Black Lives Matter fundraiser that she did for Breonna Taylor. So she inscribed the back of this card. Kind of cool. A lot of guys, some collectors are cool with that, some aren't. I was cool with it because I asked her to do it, because when I bought this card, I knew what it was for, and I said, "Hey, did you mind writing a little something on the back just to commemorate, what this is for?" And she did. But then some guys don't want them to write anything other than maybe their auto if they're supposed to. In this case, I think the person that bought it enjoyed it for what it was. I think the art on the front is more important. There's another Cecilia Granada card that I sold. It's this one. She's frying her eye instead of an egg. And I got, let's see, I got about 180 value between the two of these cards, which was nice. Made a little money on that, I think, when it's all said and done. Let's see, I also gave this gorgeous Chris Meeks. Now, Chris Meeks just won GPK Artist of the Year. His sketch cards are higher end. This, not so much. This sketch card is probably low end for Chris Meeks. Now, this sketch card is super high end for Chris. This is one of his best, in my opinion, demonstration Donald. I've shown this on the channel before, but this is just high art right here. But this, he does have a huge, a huge collection, a collector base. A lot of people like his stuff. Let's see, I think I got a $200 value on this one, which is maybe a little less than what I got it at, but still, every dollar counts when you're trying to, trade up into a one card deal. This is all trading up, so had to come with, a couple of these things. Let's see here. I also traded this Andy Moore Moore. Andes, I believe is how you spell the artist name. Moore, Andes Moore. Now, what made this card special is that he only drew on one set. So the less, it can work either for or against an artist. If he's a good artist like Andes is, then, there's not much of his stuff out there. People like it, so they'll pay a little more. But if it was a situation where they only got one set because they weren't very good, then the rarity doesn't really come into play. Now, this one, I believe I got 130 on the value for that card. And then I was also able to get some stuff for these black and whites. There's a Snooty Sam, Rich Molinelli. Another thing that bothered me about this sketch, if you notice, count his fingers. One's up his nose, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then this finger on the other, unless he's sticking his thumb up his nose, which it doesn't look like he is, he's got 6 fingers. Somebody pointed that out to me after I got the sketch, and I was like, oh, I'm done, I can't do it. $50 value on that. Then there was a Brian Abston. Don't ask me what this character is, I have no idea. $65 value on that. And then to round things off, Chenduz, who is a legend in GPK. He draws beautiful stuff. His colored stuff is obviously better than his black and white stuff. But this, nonetheless, if whoever bought this could get in touch with Chenduz and say, hey, color this, bro, then that would probably double the value at least of this card. I don't know if he's willing to do that. He might do it for a fee. I don't know. I don't know how that works. But I got 65 on this. So all that equals up to be 1,400, like I said, and the comp that we used on this card it traded for was 1375. So here we go. Without further ado, let's see. I think we're about 12 minutes in. Not bad. How about a 1963 Rookie Stars Pete Rose rookie? I've always loved Pete Rose. At one point, I was told we were related to a Major League Baseball player. Ended up being actually a pitcher for the Royals named Rich Gale. You probably don't know who he is unless you're at least 45, and then maybe probably not even then. But if you collected baseball in the early 80s, for sure you should know who he is because he had a bunch of cards. But Rich Gale ended up being related to us by marriage, not a big deal. But I always thought it was Pete Rose. Like, I was like 8 years old before I learned that Pete Rose wasn't like in my family. That's a true story. But yeah, this card is known as the Floating Heads. Some people prefer his first full, his individual card. Not, man, no way. That's a second-year card all day. I don't want to hear it. This is his rookie. Look at the Nolan Ryan rookie. I mean, nobody's arguing that his second-year first individual card is a true rookie. And I don't think they say that. I just think there's a lot of people that maybe don't like this card. I have no idea. This card is freaking gorgeous to me. Now, obviously, the centering is what got it. But still, I've seen way, way, way worse centering. That has got, at least, I can see that border there. It's pretty, it's not, obviously it's off, but it's not as bad as I've seen on some. On the back, looks pretty good. It's a little high to low, but corners are, pretty nice. There's a little fading in this one, but of course it's on blue instead of white. The top is blue. Overall, to trade into this card for what I traded into, shit, no brainer. So tell me what you think. I mean, I got rid of a bunch of modern basketball PSA 9s, which, trust me, those things are like candy now because they're affordable, and they're 9s. So what? But some collectors don't mess with 9s. I tend to be one of those guys. I don't buy 9s often or trade into them. So when I do get 9s of good players, I try to find a home for them. But a lot of guys see those like as preferred because they sell a lot faster than 10s just because people don't have the money for 10s right now. Yada, yada, yada. 1963 Floating Heads now in my collection. As you can see, I'll lay them out. My 3 vintage cards. Let me do it in chronological order. How about that? What do you think? Is that a good start? Somebody once told me that the evolution of every collector always ends in vintage. Maybe that's true, maybe that's not. I haven't come to the end of my collection journey, so I can't speak to that, but it kind of scares me a little that I now have 3 vintage cards. Thanks for watching. Appreciate it, guys. Have fun, stay safe, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye.